I'm gonna go back to where we were. So that's what the product repository is doing. Is this is where we retrieve, we save products and all that stuff. We use the repository, or we save entities or objects or whatever. We use the repository. I'm just gonna focus on this one and let's check the test for now. Do embrace this, because as I go along and explain these lot, you will find it's like you creating your own stuff, right? And my suggestion to you is, so we've taken a look at the product controller and we've taken a look at just this, right? We've taken a look at the create product. So if you want to, you pause it and you copy this. For the first round, my suggestion is don't bother to use this. Just use the, because that's what I did in the beginning. Just use a string parameter like that, or just use, for now, as you haven't gone into security, just use this one, because within this is a product, is the user name, and then work around it, because it took me quite a while before I got here. So work around it until you get to that end. Then of course you want to write all your service. Under your service, you want to write the method to implement the method, right? And if I'm just going down a bit, right, because this one is product, reference to the product equals to product.builder, and then we taking the request. For us, we just taking this username, which is this one, and then we passing on to this one, which is part of product, and then one of the, then we also passing the request, the product name. So any data that the user is passing, we are passing it on to product. We pass it on to product. So you do all that until you finish everything. Otherwise, it will give you an error and say something is missing. There's supposed to be 8. You've given 5, right? And then obviously category as well. And then we say .builder in the end. Then we save all of that object into product repository, and then we want to return, we want something to look at that is done correctly. So we can either say okay, or we can say, right, return this. Okay, so it will say okay, but it would return this details for you. So we are saying return new product response. Did we take a look at the product response? We took a look at product request, but product response is similarly the same as product response in here, except that I am saying give me the product ID and the rest of the details here, right? In product response, product request, I've commented out the ID, because that means that every time you want to create a product, you should give the ID number, and I was having a bit of issue. Sometimes it works after you've created the first one, but after that it doesn't, and it just gave me a lot of headaches, so I stopped using that. Get rid of it. Again, as you play around it, you will start doing all sort of stuff to improve your work. Okay, so I want us to take a look at this one, and I'm gonna run it now, and as I run it, I will show you the test as well for that one. All right, so I said I'm gonna run this product service, but before I do that, I'm just gonna, no, I need to run this first before I run the gateway. But you need the gateway. Once you've come this far, you will create the gateway. So if you, the first thing you should do before you even think about the gateway is this. So once you've done the entity and the DTOs, and you've done your what do you call it, so you got your module, and then you got the entity, and then you've got your repository, right? That is good enough for you. You haven't set up the gateway yet. So I'm gonna cut off that bit and get this one started, and then we could run the test. Otherwise, by the time we're done with this, it will be another 4 or 5 videos because there's quite a lot of work to do. So this is running with no problems, and the reason why it's running is because it's picking his database settings and all that stuff from the config server. So it knows what, if the config server is not running, this will not run. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is run this gateway, and if that works, then we can run the test, but ignore the gateway for now. I'm just saying ignore the gateway for now, but there's a lot of work on the gateway, and if I talk about it now, it will take another 5 or so videos before we get to the before we even finish the product service. So the gateway is running, and it would have specified what it is. So I did say that I want us to take a look at the Eureka service and Zipkin when we've got services running. So we go, at the moment it's saying we got product services and gateway services. Don't worry about this. And the Zipkin will keep track if we, let me just go rerun. Yeah, I'm just going to product HTTP put. I'm just going to run the test for creating a product. So we've got a test for creating a product, but in order to do that bit, we need to log the user in and get the access token. Right, in order to do that, you've got to set this up, and what we've got here is a form setup. So once you go into I know this looks a little bit different from Postman, but it works more or less the same. You need to create a form, and then you need to pass the form and then the values. Yeah, so you need to pass the values to each of these parameters, should I say, or params. Yeah, and so the parameter you need, the first one is client ID, and it will be your client ID. Remember, I said that I've got 2 clients. And these tests are for the backend. Remember that. And this is the client for the backend. Do you remember that? There was Ocean frontend and then Ocean client. So this is the client ID for the backend. What am I talking about? Let's go back to keycloak. If we can go back to keycloak, localhost, and we want 9089. I said I would refer back to this as we go along because I think it's only fair. Admin, right, let me go back to keycloak. Let's just close this one down and make sure we are not in the master, we are in our own RAM. Go into the client and then make sure that we access this Ocean client. That's the Ocean client, right? This is our backend client. Okay, remember I said that we need a client with credentials tab, and the only way to get the credentials tab is to allow this. So let me take it off for you, and let me save it. If we save it, right, and you see how the credentials are removed, we need it. Okay, we need a client authentication credential, we need this one. So let me just save it. I hope I haven't messed it up. Okay, so that looks fine, and then the credentials are back. Okay, now back to the Postman. We've confirmed that this Ocean client is our client ID, which is the client ID. Very good. And then the next param is grant type. The grant type, GRANT dash team type TYPE. We are using the grant type as password. Okay, then we got the username. We are specifying the username, so this is like a login. Okay, and then we are using the username, the user, and then the password for that user is password. That's for this particular user. And then we are using client secret. Remember I said we need this credential tab, because the only way we can get this credential tab is if we enable this. And when we go into the credential tab, and this is our client credential, so let's open it. This is our credential. Remember, it starts from 4FL and end with M77. So let me close it. I'm not gonna change it because I need it. 4 and end with 7 something at the end. So you start with 4 yeah, 4FL. That is our client secret that we need, and this is the reason why we need it, is to get the access token. So let me get a new access token, and this access token, you can also set it up in keycloak. Maybe in the near future I'll cover that one, when how long you want to have it before it dies, right? I have set it up a longer to expire at 1800 seconds, I believe, and that is, what was it, is it 30 minutes or something like that? Yeah, I will take a look at it in another one. So let's go to create products. We are inside product, and we want to create a product, and we have search product, get product, create product, right? And this is what I'm specifying for this product. So we say this is the product. Remember, we don't have product ID here, so no product ID, no user ID here. Okay, user name here, user name here, but on the return it should return your username. Now without this will be 404. This is why we need the access token that we just copied. So we just put the access token here, and it says 500, so there's a problem. It shouldn't be. So backend seems fine. It seems to be doing exactly what I want it to do, and this is the token of the user, and the user's details. That's the Adobe backend. Gateway seems fine. Front one, product seems to be having problems for some reason. Category is not found. I understand that is true. So I think what I can do is, unfortunately, I've got to end the video here, and we will pick up again in the next video. Thank you for coming back to my channel.